earlier, most of you know me as the Cobblestone Circle Clinical Coordinator. However, today I'm presenting to you as a nursing student representing Minnesota State University Moorhead. And what we're going to talk about is fall prevention. So what we'll cover is the impact of falls, the impact that falls have on our residents, as well as the impact that falls have on Assumption. We'll talk about specifically falls at Assumption and what concerns we're having with those. We'll review personal alarm use, benefits, the cons, the appropriate way to respond to a personal alarm. We'll also talk about fall prevention and what we can do to prevent falls, specifically the process of hourly rounding. So falls is the leading cause of death for an elderly person 65 years or older. All 50% of residents who will fall will sustain a major injury, and 50% will not recover to their prior baseline. 20% will die within a year of sustaining a fracture. So that's a pretty big number when you think about how many of our residents are falling and how many of our residents qualify as that older than 65, as well as our tenants. Falls is a huge risk factor. And then there's the cost. On the low end, a hospital stay or evaluation for a fall is about $20,000. Now, if you require surgical intervention, surgical complications, our elderly patients don't recover as fast as you and I do. You're looking at 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. They'll usually come back on Medicare, who pays for Medicare? Also, if they fall and they end up in the nursing home, that affects our census. We don't get paid for beds that aren't full. Resident falls also affect our quality indicators and quality measures, which affect our overall star rating. So Assumption has a goal of 16 or less resident falls per month. That's about a fall every other day. We strive for no major injuries and no staff follow-up. Now what that means is we don't want our falls to occur because staff weren't following the care plan. We want our residents basically to be fall-free. However, in the event that they do fall, we want it to be one that isn't injured, where we were doing our best to prevent it. So let's review falls at Assumption. This is a 6-month look back, and the number of falls is the accurate number. So in May, we had 40 resident falls. June was 29, July 22, August totaled 27, September 31, and October 33. That's pretty far off from 16. Currently for November, we're at 11. We have 10 days left in the month, and 5 falls left to reach our goal. It's absolutely obtainable, but it's going to take a lot of work. And we're going to talk today about what we can do to lessen that workload, to make fall prevention easy and possibly fun. Let's talk about falls at Assumption and where our current concerns are. So 80% of our falls are occurring in resident rooms, and I want you to remember this statistic. We're going to talk about hourly rounding a little later, and this just explains why it's so important to be in those residents' rooms with them hourly. 10% of our falls occur from residents falling out of bed. Almost 20% require staff follow-up. Now that means that the fall occurred because staff were not following the plan of care. A 20% reduction could easily be done if we were making sure we're on top of our game. Keep in mind we strive for a 0% staff follow-up fall rate. Currently, 4% of our falls result in a major injury. Now 2% of that will not regain their prior level of function, and 1% will pass away because of the fall. Most of our falls are happening during busy or loud times. 25% occur during meals, almost 20% around shift change, and interestingly enough, almost 50% are occurring between 5 and 9 p.m., that time when everybody wants to go to bed, everybody wants to get in the tub, they want to go here, they want to go there. When we stop and look at residents of concern, I can't share actual names because this presentation will be shared with my instructor and my classmates, and I do need to protect resident privacy and comply with HIPAA guidelines. But I bet we could figure out who these residents are. So J.E. on South Cove, who moved to Northwoods today, he averages 1 to 2 falls per month. J.A. on South Cove, he averages 1 fall a month, and that doesn't include his purposeful placements out of bed in the night. And Heritage E.L., who moved over to Northwoods, 4 to 5 falls a month. And S.R. averages 1. M.H. on Northwoods averages 3 falls a month. J.F. on Carlson, she averages 2 to 3 falls a month. That's been an increase lately. And H.K. is an interesting case. He averages 2 to 3 falls per month, but he fell 10 times in October and 6 times in September. Pretty big. Now, if we add up this on the low end, it's about 14. minus 14 as well as 20% from our staff follow-up concerns from these numbers. I mean, we're absolutely within our goal, if not below 16 falls. We just need to focus on those 7 residents who are falling frequently, as well as bump up our ability to follow care plan. And if you don't remember, when we reach our goal, we get jelly bars. And ice cream tastes good in November. I know it was enticing in July, but it'll still taste good. The next thing we'll review is personal alarms. So at the start of this project in August, 23 of our residents had a personal alarm. That's a tab alarm attached to them, a pressure alarm under them, a laser alarm. That's 28% of the resident population had a personal alarm. Currently, about 10 residents have a personal alarm. We're reserving alarms for those high-risk fallers who really need it. We'll review a few reasons for that. There's a few cons to personal alarms, so we want to make sure those we're using them on are necessary. And I'd like to take this opportunity to remind you that it is the responsibility of all staff to respond to personal alarms. Now, maybe your job description doesn't have you trained to transfer or reposition a resident, but you need to respond to that alarm and make sure that resident stays safe. Leave the alarm running or beeping until another staff member can come who can transfer them. So Bressler, Redford, and Brown did a study on personal alarm use, and the pro was that staff are alerted to self-transfers, right? But there were several cons. The big one was desensitization. How often do you hear an alarm and you wait 5 to 10 seconds to see if somebody else is going to get it? Right there, you've just delayed your response time and defeated the entire purpose of the alarm. A concern is that we respond to the alarm only. We approach the person and say, Mary, sit down, Mary. Mary, you need to sit down. We reattach the tab alarm, we say thank you, and we walk away. We didn't meet Mary's needs at all, and I bet you $20 she's going to stand up again. False alarms are a problem. You hear alarm, you respond to it quickly, you get there, somebody else is just in the room transferring them. Or if you remember resident BH on Northwoods, he had a faulty alarm, and he would be strolling down the hallway, and it was chirping all day long. We couldn't get his fix for anything. Alarms are disruptive, not only to the resident, but to others around them, especially at night. And when you think about Assumption wants to provide a home-like environment, how home-like is a string attached to you? How many of you sit at home at night and watch TV with a string attached to you on the couch? Alarms can increase behaviors because of the noise, especially with our cognitively impaired residents. And interestingly enough, the study found that twice as many falls occur with the use of alarms than when alarms were not in use. Now, one con that I thought of that the study didn't cover is, how many of us know a resident who knows how to deactivate their alarm? I think that HK resident who had 10 falls in October is on his 7th type of alarm. He's a tradesman by craft. His job was to learn a tool, understand how it works, and make it function. We could give him probably the most complicated alarm in the world and he'll probably figure it out. Another concern though. Because we're unable to get rid of alarms, and we need them to help us know when those residents who do fall frequently are moving, we need to respond to them appropriately. We need to use the root cause analysis, find out the why. What is the need that the resident had that we need to respond to? And because the resident stood up is never the reason why the alarm went off. Are they hungry? Are they in pain? They have to go to the bathroom. Now this gets difficult with our cognitively impaired residents because they can't communicate their needs to us as readily. This is when we have to anticipate their needs more than ever. Remember that the correct response is never sit down, reset the alarm, and walk away. Next we'll talk about fall prevention. This picture is actually a commercial put out by the Ottawa Public Health out of Canada, and it's fantastic. The concept of it is that fall prevention is easier than standing on your head. And when you think about it, fall prevention it's a huge project. It's huge and it's difficult. But there's 82 residents at Assumption, and I'm not sure how many tenants, but I bet you if we added up the employees, we'd probably have more employees than tenants and residents. So if each of us do our part, and we each try a little bit, I bet we could prevent falls a lot easier than if we all tried to stand on our head right now, especially if we try to get our residents to stand on their head. Tactics to prevent falls. Exercise group and new step. We need to keep our residents strong and keep their balance, as well as our tenants. We also need to make sure that walking and range of motion programs are being completed. Residents have individualized care plans for a reason, and we need to make sure that those little specific funny things for each resident are followed, because they're proven to show that They prevent future falls. We need to be answering our call lights promptly. It's been a common complaint lately, call light wait times. If that call light is on, the resident is more apt to stand up and try to meet their own needs and fall than if we'd answered it promptly. And the biggest thing we can do is hourly round. It's the policy of Assumption Home to complete hourly rounding on all residents to provide excellent customer service, including fall prevention, ADL assistance, and ongoing assurance of quality of care. It's also the responsibility of all staff to participate. In fact, that's the #2 guideline of the hourly rounding policy. Hourly rounding helps us anticipate our residents' needs rather than react to them by alarms activation or call lights going off. So I want to compare a few things. Hourly rounding was started in October 2011 at Assumption. So let's look at 2011 and 2013. The quality of care is a number derived off the MDSs that we submit to the state of Minnesota. And in 2011, we had 72%. Pretty good, right? Our last was 56%. Quality of life is a rating that our residents get when the state comes out and does face-to-face interviews. 83.8, pretty happy people. As of late, 83.4. Now that's only 0.5%, but our residents are still 0.5% less satisfied. Hours of direct care refers to how much one-on-one time each resident gets in a 24-hour period from all departments. They have 5.1 hours in 24 hours in 2011. Currently, they get 6.1. Now this is where I get confused. If we have more time to spend one-on-one time with our residents, our falls are through the roof, our residents are less happy, and our quality of care is down. We should be taking that extra time we have and making the most out of it. Hourly rounding, making sure our residents' needs are met, that they're happy, that we're doing the best they can to prevent falls. A month after hourly rounding was initiated, there were 16 resident falls. Pretty good, we met our goal, right? 6 months later, 25. A year later, 32. And then we hit that 1.5 year mark, 40. And I'm not blaming you for these numbers, I just want you to be fully aware of where Assumption's been, where we currently are, and what we have the potential to become by increasing our hourly rounding, improving our residents' quality of life and quality of care, and making use of that extra hour to be productive with it. So hourly rounding made easy. Hourly rounding is completed. Anybody guess how often? Every hour, yes. Yes, and you have the entire hour to complete it, from 1 to 1:59, but we strive to get it completed by the half-hour mark. There's hand magnets on each door. Rooms that have 2 residents will have an A and a B to signify double rooms and which side it pertains to. And the hours go from left to right. So an easy way is when you're walking in a residence room is to think of it like a book. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. So if it's 9:15, you walk into a residence room, you hourly round. When you exit the room, we're in the 9 o'clock hour, we're going to put the magnet on the left side of the door. Now if you enter a residence room, you hourly round, you walk out, it's 9:15 and that magnet's on the left side already, keep it on the left side. Because all departments are going to be participating in hourly rounding, we could be rounding the same people 5 minutes apart. Be mindful of your magnets when you're catching up and making sure that each resident's been checked in on hourly. An easy way to remember, what should I ask the resident, is just to remember your 4 R's. Reposition, restroom, rehydrate, refuel, and relieve. Reposition and restroom go hand in hand. That's that toileting and repositioning plan of care. Is the resident comfortable? Rehydrate and refuel refers to snack and food. Now snacks get passed at 3 o'clock in HS, but if we're meeting our residents' needs and if they're hungry and we're getting them something to eat, we'll probably be handing out a lot less nutritional supplements and have a lot less residents with weight loss. Relief refers to pain. We want our residents comfortable. If a resident does report pain to you, please make sure the nurse knows so that something can be done about it. And while all departments aren't trained to toilet or reposition, you should still participate in hourly rounding. If that's a need of the resident, just put their call light on so that somebody who is trained in that can come in and help and move the magnet as you exit the room. While there aren't magnets in the apartments, you can still think about this system when you're working with your residents. If you're up there, tenants, excuse me. Well, if you're up there and you think about, I want to meet all your needs right now in this one time, it'll probably save you 4 or 5 trips up to the 2nd floor to get this, and then that, and then this. And speaking of saving time, studies on hourly rounding have showed that hourly rounding decreases falls. It decreases call-out use because we're readily anticipating our residents' needs, and it improves resident satisfaction. Your residents are happier. They don't have to ask for something, you're asking them, what can I do for you? So in summary, we talked about the impact of resident falls. We talked about that falls are the leading cause of death of elderly residents, and 50% will sustain a major injury from falling and not rehabilitate to their prior function. We reviewed falls and assumption that 80% are occurring in residents' rooms, all the more reasons to get out there and hourly round. We talked about personal alarm use, that they should be reserved for frequently falling residents, and make sure that we're responding to them not only appropriately and finding out the root cause of why, but making sure that we're aware that we need to respond to them quickly. We talked about fall prevention, encouraging our residents and tenants to participate in those exercise groups, maintaining their strength and their balance, as well as the importance of all staff to participate in hourly rounding to help anticipate our residents' needs, improve their satisfaction, decrease call-out wait time, and as well as resident falls. But I'm going to need your help. I mean, I would love to sit out in the hall with a vest and a whistle and be the hourly rounding police, but I wouldn't get anything else done. And so it's going to take a facility. It's going to take us as a group to catch hourly rounding in the moment and praise when it's happening correctly, as well as catch it when it's happening ineffectively and provide education. I mean, I think we're absolutely able to reach our goal of 16 falls per month or less, but it's going to take us as a team to do so. With that, do you guys have any questions regarding hourly rounding and falls? No? Okay. Thank you for coming. There are evaluations on the chairs. If you wish to fill them out, that would be great. If not, go forth and move some magnets. Thank you.
Thank you.